There's been cracks forming in the commercial real estate side of the real estate equation, and it looks like the dam is about to break. And here's what I'm talking about. And all this makes sense and we're aware of it. What we need to pay attention, though, is what impact it can have on us. And so commercial real estate has been under distress since the pandemic. And leading up to the pandemic, landlords were getting maximum dollar. There was a lot of competition for space. There was almost a feeling of shortage of office space. Interest rates were low. There was a lot of buyers in the market, and all those things, drove up property values. Cap rates went up, property values went up, all good. Then we hit the pandemic, work from home, not good, right? Because occupancy rates shot up to, depending where you were during the pandemic, 50, 60, 70, 80%. And now that we're past the pandemic, occupancy rates are still at all-time highs. They're still nationally at 23%. Vacancy rate, I should say, is at 23%. That's a very large number. And in some cities like San Francisco, the vacancy rate is 35%. That's a problem. And so Richter, in an article this weekend, covered this topic, and the name of his article is Office CMBS's Delinquency Rate Respikes to 10.6% to the worst levels of the financial crisis meltdown. Now, understand, banks have been under duress with this paper for some time, really under duress. And so they've taken the strategy of extend and pretend, meaning extend the loan and pretend everything will get better. Because today, when your office building needs to be refinanced or your apartment building needs to be refinanced, interest rates are, instead of at 4% or 5%, they're at 9%. Your monthly payment is twice as high, and your monthly rents due to vacancies are 50% less. So your income's way down and your expense is way high, and it doesn't pencil out. And so in order to be able to get a loan, you have to really buy down your principal to a point to where you can get the right cap rate on that loan, and it's just not penciled out. And there's a dichotomy what's happening. New, really nice buildings, ones that have been completely spiffed out. And you know what I'm talking about. They're the ones that have great community space. They probably have even a gym, a beautiful kitchen, maybe restaurants on premises. They have that social. They have happy hour every day. All those amenities. They have everything possible. The little waterfalls inside of them, beautiful plants, all glass. Those prime A properties are still leasing at full price. They're pretty bulletproof. There's actually competition for those buildings, and rents are perfectly fine. But as you drop down to Class B buildings, those ones that are old, especially those ones where you enter from the outside, meaning you, instead of having an atrium, you go outside, all those buildings now are in huge distress. The good news, as Wolf has covered in quite a few articles, is that the market's starting to find a bottom. And that's important because until it finds the selling point, you can't fix it. Now, the scary part is the selling point for many of these Class B buildings is at a 50%, 60%, 70% write down from their peak. So let's pretend they were last valued in 2019 or 2020 as a $2 million building. Well, today that's going to be valued at a $600,000 building. That's how they're going to sell. That's certainly the way it is in San Francisco. The Class B properties are starting to move now, but they're moving at 50 to 70% down, and that's largely true in most major metros. And so they found a bottom. And so now if you're an owner, okay, I'm under distress. I can't refinance. I can't afford to make my payments. I'm in default. My bank's going to stop, extending and pretending. What are my options? Well, your options today are, look, you can sell it at 50 cents on the dollar from the peak, or 60 cents on the dollar from the peak, or 30 cents on the dollar from the peak. But at least and at least there's an option. And when you have options, you get choices, and you can start to take control of your outcome. Why this is kind of important to us, by the way, is, in what we do in residential real estate, a lot of our clients are also investors, whether they're investors in non-owner occupied properties or commercial properties, and we're generally their advisors. And so if you have clients that have been trying to build wealth through real estate, this may be an opportunity for them to go shopping for Class B buildings, which they're going to get at 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar. Now, in order for these buildings to be viable, they're going to need to be completely renovated. They're going to need to be upgraded. Some will be converted. Some will even be converted into condos or apartments. They're going to have to be something else other than a 30-year-old worn-out office building, because nobody wants to work in those. They're going to have to create something else. So if they want to get a deal and they have money to invest in the renovation, they could be on the road to wealth, creating wealth through real estate. And certainly commercial real estate is another opportunity. I really like this article. You guys know, if you follow me, I love Wolf. I think he does great stuff. I'm going to show you the article right now. Here's the article for the weekend. He's off of CMBS's delinquency rates spike. I mean, 10% of outstanding paper on commercial real estate is delinquent. That is a giant problem, right? And you can kind of see here, it's how it's bounced around. The last time was after the great financial recession. All bad news, right? So Wolf does a great job with this. I will post his article below. I'm trying to think out. So I told you we talked about the 10.6% is now delinquent, 22% national vacancy rate, 35% vacancy rate in San Francisco. Older buildings are facing a 50 to 70% reduction off the peak price. Extended pretend is running out of road. Banks aren't having to do that much. It's mostly the Class B, and Class B is now Class C. They're struggling with massive vacancies, zero tenant demand, and collapsing valuations. And the holders of this paper, by the way, the good news is it's not all credit unions and local banks who historically have held this paper. This stuff has now been securitized and sold out, so it's spread out through the economy. Hedge funds, all the places you think are investing in this. And so it's something to pay attention to, and by the way, when any part of the real estate market gets destabilized, we all feel it. If investors lose money in commercial real estate, they're less likely to want to invest in, residential real estate. And when I say investors, I mean people that provide the liquidity that we operate on. Check out Wolf's article. I love Wolf's work. I did a post on LinkedIn on this today. Check out my LinkedIn. I do 2 or 3 posts a day. Hopefully, I have useful information like that. With that, I hope you're having a great day. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks so much.